Y la situación económica la realidad es como vivimos, así. Cada familia, los hijos van haciendo su espacio uno arriba de otro. Y mucha salida laboral no tenemos, más que los precarizados. Se hace una sola comida al día, es decir, al mediodía o a la noche. Después no tenemos otra posibilidad. El alimento realmente que uno tiene que, como ser humano real, no está.
Right now, Argentina is living through a worsening economic crisis.
Menos negocios, más gente sin trabajo, más gente comiendo de la basura y la desesperanza sí se podría decir que es como la emoción más común entre las personas jóvenes.
Inflation is at 115% and rising. Prices are constantly climbing. The peso loses value daily. Quality jobs are evaporating.
Que no hay trabajo. Yo estoy ganando, ponerle 3.000, 4.000, con suerte, a veces sí. Para salir, para sobrevivir más que nada.
Amidst Argentina's worst drought in 100 years, the commodity exports that have long dominated the nation's economic model are plummeting, and central bank reserves too. At the same time, Argentina finds itself strapped with historic debt after taking the IMF's largest ever loan in 2018. A controversial agreement which broke laws and protocols according to a report from the Argentina General Auditor's Office, and which, according to the IMF itself, did not deliver on its objectives. It's common to hear Argentines simply say, the loan se fugó, ran away.
Fue una deuda ilegítima. El dinero que nos enviaron, acá están las consecuencias por no verlo.
With Argentina now crushed under the ever-growing payments, the IMF is attempting to enforce austerity measures, which means the state budget is whittled down to a skeleton. Salaries, utility subsidies, programs designed to support the most vulnerable are on the chopping block. Poverty, already at 40%, is ticking upwards.
Y tengo una hija también que hay veces que ella no quiere. Por ahí me parte el alma. En decirme de que me llame ella por teléfono y que me diga, mamá, venía a buscarla al abrir porque no tengo para darle de comer. Es una cosa de vivirla y otra es contar.
This is the environment leading up to October's presidential election, the candidates for which are all grasping for a solution to stop the slide. No matter who wins, an abrupt devaluation is likely, in order to narrow the gulf between the peso's official exchange rate with the dollar and the one that rules the dominating black market. For a frustrated Argentine population already protesting, this could be la última gota que rebasó el vaso, the drop that overflowed the glass. I'm Amelia Reyno, an independent journalist from the US living in Buenos Aires since late 2021. This is a story about how 7 decades of U.S. economic interference contributed to Argentina's crisis of today. And this is Chapter 2. How did Argentina, once one of the world's richest nations, get here? To begin, we have to go back 8 decades, to the 40s, when a candidate named Juan Perón began capturing Argentina's imagination. The U.S. government, largely uninvolved in Argentine affairs until this point, was, in 1945, worried about the nationalistic direction Perón might take Argentina. Newly appointed Ambassador Spruill Braden, in Argentina for just 4 months total, began making attempts to rally the opposition. Just before the 1946 election, the U.S. produced a document based on Braden's reports and approved by President Harry Truman. What would become known as the Blue Book identified Perón as a principal conspirator in a collaboration with Nazi and Axis powers to subvert other Latin American nations and usher in the Fourth Reich. If you've ever heard a reference or a joke about Argentina being a safe haven for Nazis, it probably originates from this politically motivated U.S. document. Nico de Brielusic, an Argentine anthropologist and historian, told me this first U.S. intervention in Argentina wasn't just about Nazi paranoia. The U.S. was perhaps mostly concerned about one of Perón's top goals: economic independence.
El objetivo de Estados Unidos, la
The
República
objective
Argentina,
of the U.S. for the Argentine Republic was to contain its potential for growth.
Esta idea de América para los americanos, pero evidentemente para
America
los
for the
norteamericanos.
Americans, but clearly U.S. Americans.
Argentina, en ese sentido, podría
In this
llegar a
sense,
representar
Argentina
un
was an
obstáculo
obstacle for
para
the
Estados
US.
Unidos, una piedra en el
A
zapato.
stone in the shoe. But U.S. efforts to stop Perón from coming to power didn't work. Perón's campaign responded to the report with posters depicting the race as a choice between Argentine sovereignty or U.S. control. Braden or Perón. And Perón won. For a while, relations with the U.S. normalized. 6 months into the new U.S. ambassador's post in Buenos Aires, he determined that the Axis threat conceived by his predecessor had been largely imaginary. But other concerns were brewing. Raising wages, transforming labor laws, and creating new dignified career paths, Perón proved adept at mobilizing workers into a powerful political force, while building the kind of economic environment that would be resistant to the shocks Argentina is currently managing. His beloved wife and First Lady, Eva Perón, nicknamed Evita, embodied the compassionate welfare state and the fights for social justice, feminism, and equality. Under Perón, industry proliferated, reducing Argentina's dependence on imports and dollars while creating the potential for the nation to grow into a regional competitor for more than just agriculture. Carlos Propato, a former factory worker, painted cars for Ford Argentina, where organized worker groups had won battles for higher salaries, longer breaks, safer conditions.
Perón lo reivindicó al obrero en un lugar en la vida
Perón
social.
vindicated the worker, he told me. He gave the worker a place in the social life of this country.
Teníamos poder, claro. El movimiento obrero era
We had power.
respetado en el mundo.
The workers' movement in Argentina was respected across the world. Those tensions would lead Ford and other corporate powers to later play a violent role in the dark legacy that would personally target Propato. In the 50s, that terror was still decades away. In 1951, after Perón strongly won re-election, the eyes of the world were on Argentina for other reasons. Spacious, rich in resources, and quickly developing, Argentina again had the look of a spoiler for the U.S., a nearly self-reliant nation that could make its own decisions, forge its own alliances, and undermine U.S. supremacy.
Y de pronto, el país pasa de ser un mero proveedor de materias
Suddenly,
primas
Argentina goes from being a mere raw material supplier
empieza a tener una tecnología nuclear,
to industrializing, developing nuclear technology.
llegar a lograr algún tipo de independencia o de soberanía.
If Argentina could achieve some kind of independence or sovereignty, economically and politically,
Un problema muy grande para Estados Unidos
that
y
could be a very big problem for the
interés
U.S. and
continental.
its continental interests. By this time, meddling U.S. Ambassador Braden was long gone, but his impact lived on. In 1955, a coalition between the Argentine military and the opposition Braden had been so involved in organizing succeeded in overthrowing Perón, bombing the central Plaza de Mayo and killing more than 300 civilians. Perón was out, fleeing into exile. Reversing his legacy would prove more complicated. In Chapter 3, the geopolitical and economic factors that would lead the U.S. to get involved again.